and Wilkerson Law Firm, and we are going to be discussing why family law attorneys and divorce attorneys might hire experts like forensic accountants or child custody evaluators, skip tracers, private detectives, other professionals that are not necessarily in the legal field to help strengthen and make your case. That is what today's topic is going to be about. Thank you for joining us. As always, my name is Genghis Shakhan. I'm the managing attorney here at Shakhan and Wilkerson Law Firm. We are a boutique law firm serving the state of Georgia. Myself and my partner, attorney Chelsea Wilkerson. If you are a client or potential client in need of legal counsel, we would be happy to assist you. You're welcome to give us a call always at 404 999 9529 or 478 845 1213. We will do a custody consultation, excuse me, a consultation with you. And if it looks like that we can help you out, we'd be more than happy to move forward with representing you in either a divorce, child custody, men's right, or legitimation, or even your criminal defense case. Okay. All right. As I mentioned, today's discussion is going to be on some of the experts that family law attorneys, divorce attorneys might bring on to your case if we deem that it is necessary in order to strengthen your case. Okay. So here are some of the hidden professionals that sometimes work behind the scenes and hand in hand with family law attorneys and divorce attorneys. All right. So many people think that a divorce case is won by the lawyer alone, and that might be the situation. But in reality, some of the strongest family law cases, there are some other experts behind the scenes. And this video is going to discuss who some of those parties might be. So, quick roadmap. As you know, if you've watched us before, we always give a roadmap of things to come, what we're going to discuss in the video, so you can see if this video is right for you. And we don't want to waste your time. So we're going to discuss forensic accountants, private investigators, skip tracers, custody evaluators, guardian ad litems, and any kind of custody professionals and any other experts that come to mind as we're having this talk. Okay. All right. So um, let's talk really quickly about why some law firms, in particular, I could talk about our law firm. We have a very close relationship with a number of experts in the areas that are either private investigators or forensic accountants, or who we use pretty routinely in some types of cases, especially the complex cases. And we'll talk about what type of cases we actually use those experts in. So the goal always, always, always is to find evidence. Okay. And then, we're also trying to protect assets. So it's going to be essential sometimes to identify those assets. And this is still in the fact gathering and evidence gathering stage. And that's going to be done to strengthen our client's case. And so we want to also present credible testimony. So sometimes we will call these witnesses to the stand and have them testify about what they have uncovered in their investigation, right? So if it's a private investigator, they might have surveilled the other party. Let's say that, they were supposed to be on the job, and our private investigator finds out that, they are traipsing around Europe and gallivanting, and really wasting money away from the marital estate. That's going to be very relevant when it comes to the divorce, and you're talking about the equitable division of the marital estate. So if one party is squandering it or is a spendthrift, then that's going to be problematic, and a judge or a jury is going to have to address that in a trial. Okay. And so sometimes the right expert can uncover information that really breaks a case wide open. And so that's the reason why, some of these experts are brought on. Right. But it's important to know that not every case warrants an actual expert. So, what do they do for forensic accountants? Let's talk about forensic accountants in particular. they follow the money, baby. So that is what they do. That's what we bring them on for expressly, and that is to track money. They're tracking bank accounts, business records. Looking at tax returns, credit card statements, investment accounts. Wherever there is money, they are on it, right? They try to sniff it out, and so that stuff again is going to be evidence that might be used in court, and they may testify to the things that they have been able to locate doing a diligent search of these records. Okay, and so they can help identify hidden assets, or a hidden income or undervalued businesses. For example, unreported cash. Another big one is going to be financial fraud, right? So in these divorces, as you can imagine, especially where the parties there's a high asset divorce, there is going to be hidden assets. It happens almost routinely. One party is trying to keep assets away from another party. Okay, and so really depends on what jurisdiction we're in, or maybe around the state, which forensic accountant team we engage. I mean, usually we might need assistance from the court, sometimes to get the one party to cooperate, but you can always subpoena records and documents and those type of things, in order to make certain that that you're getting the type of access that is necessary so that your forensic accountant can do the type of search that they need to do. Okay, and so some of the common cases again that we use, maybe a forensic accountant in, are going to be high net worth divorces, where one party is maybe a business owner, one spouse is self-employed, or if the party comes to us, our client comes to us, and there are some hidden asset claims. Obviously, we're attorneys, we're not accountants, so even if we can get access to certain records, in order to really track down where assets might be going, especially if they're going to places like cryptocurrency, which are a little more challenging to track, or if they're going into accounts that are off really outside the United States, right? Those type of things, we need a forensic accountant on so that they can actually monitor accounts and see where exactly that stuff is headed to, especially if there are things like offshore accounts. Okay. All right. Now, private investigators we hire for a very different reason, and so sometimes it has to do with allegations. So what private investigators essentially will do for us is they'll gather lawful evidence, and sometimes they'll conduct surveillance. Okay, they'll interview witnesses, they'll also locate information, and they can document behavior. So if we're looking for someone, sometimes we're looking for someone to serve documents on, or we're searching for witnesses, or there's information out there that we need to get our hands on. We may retain a private investigator to assist us in that process. So they can be helpful in really uncovering suspected hidden relationships. As you can imagine, if one spouse is cheating on another, they have suspicions of it. They can't verify it. We can bring on a private investigator that might give us assistance in that area. They may conduct some surveillance. They can provide pictures. That stuff can be used in court. The private investigator obviously can testify in court to that as well. If there are some type of parenting concerns, right? And so sometimes, there's questionable behavior in terms of parenting. A private investigator might be brought on to show that children are being unsupervised, right, late at night, or the children are they're being put in these situations where they're around some very nefarious individuals, right? So again, a private investigator can provide you with images, with photos, and that might be helpful in really making your case, especially if you're locked in a pretty close custody fight. All right. There can be photos for cohabitation, and affecting alimony or spousal support, substance abuse concerns, custody disputes, or verifying employment or lifestyle claims. Right. So if one party is claiming to be a pauper, right, but in reality they're in Sedona, Arizona, living it up. we can retain a local private investigator in Arizona to get us access to, essentially the party that we believe is not being truthful about their lifestyle, and we can essentially use that information in court, right? So it's important to know that private investigators do operate, the ones we retain at least, do operate within the law. They can't trespass or hack accounts or do unlawful things, and so that is not the reason we retain a private investigator. That's no conduct that our office has ever engaged in. Okay, skip tracers. Okay, skip tracers are another one, very similar to private investigators. They specialize in locating people. Okay, so sometimes people just kind of disappear, go off grid. A skip tracer will help us track that person down. That could be a witness, or it could be a former spouse, that we need to get served. Or, sometimes skip tracers can just find an address so we can send out someone to serve a party, or they can find employers, and sometimes they can also find missing assets as well. So, some common uses for skip tracers: if there are missing parents or witnesses or debtors, skip tracers can be very valuable and tracking those folks down. Same with bank accounts and property ownership. Okay, and so if those situations exist in our cases, we might talk to our client about engaging a skip tracer. Now, business valuation experts, usually we use those where one spouse or both might own a business, and there's questions as to how much that business is actually worth. Okay. So the business valuator will come in and they will take a look at the business, and they can give us a sense of what it's going to be worth, especially that's something that needs to be considered prior to, let's just say, the business is going to be sold for parts, or one party is going to be bought out. There needs to be an actual number placed on the value of that business. All right. And so one thing they can do is they can tell us what the business is worth. They can also tell us if income is being underreported or overreported, and what the business is actually earning. Okay. And so, as you can imagine, not everyone has a background in evaluating businesses. So, in this particular instance, if there is a business, and is, at least the records are decent, then a business evaluator might be key to really addressing what's going on with that asset. All right. Vocational experts could be used if sometimes people will underreport, they will intentionally be underemployed. And so it can help, they can help really help us identify what a party's income earning capacity truly is. And so it's not someone that we actually use often, but this person can help, in cases where there are issues regarding spousal support and child support, and they're trying to figure out what exactly, if the person does not have an income or they are under earning, what exactly they have the capacity to earn, so that child support numbers can be set. Okay. A guardian ad litem. This guardian ad litems are used more in, again, custody cases, and that can be a divorce case. Basically, usually they are another attorney, so they are. If both parties have an attorney, they are a third attorney on the case. They are usually known as the eyes and ears of the court, and a lot of times the judge will appoint a guardian ad litem, or you may even hear of a guardian ad litem if you're in juvenile court. And essentially, what they do, their role is to investigate that's usually the child's circumstances and make recommendations to the court regarding the best interest of the child. So if you've gone through these types of cases, you know that at the end of really at the end of the case, the guardian ad litem generates a report after they've done their investigation. They may have gone out to the child's school. They may have sat with both parents or guardians. They may have interviewed family and friends. They may have interviewed the child, right? And then after that, they will generate a report and present it to the court usually in the form of a recommendation. Of course, the court does not have to accept the guardian ad litem's recommendation. The judge is always going to do what's in the best interest of the child, and that's going to be a judge and not a jury. So the gall, it's important to know, is not a lawyer for either parent, right? The gall is the really the eyes and ears of the court. And then you can use custody evaluators. Gall can kind of serve as a custody evaluator as well. And sometimes it's, can be a mental health professional, and they can evaluate the parents, the children, and then family dynamics and their findings, like Gall's findings, might be important evidence in a custody litigation. And we usually will see these in these very intense custody fights. You might see custody evaluators, Galls involved, multiple reports. Sometimes the reports are competing reports. However, these are some of the professionals that are going to, sometimes be involved in these cases that are sometimes more complex, and just really depending on the issues, right? And so usually the attorneys will identify the issues. However, they can also be appear in cases where the parties are pro se. So usually all lawyers, when they are essentially bringing on these professionals, are looking for evidence, are looking for, essentially some kind of testimony that's going to, make their case stronger, make their client's case stronger, I should say. And so text messages, emails, social media, photos, videos, GPS information, all that stuff is fair game. Okay. Financial apps is all fair game. And so you'll see lawyers a lot of times, especially in the more complex cases, they may engage these other agencies and these other professionals in order to, again, strengthen their case. Sometimes they will have to subpoena records in order to get those records and those documents in front of the professionals, namely folks like, when you talk about the forensic accountant, sometimes, those records will need to be subpoenaed. And so attorneys may subpoena banks, they may subpoena employers. And I'm saying attorneys is something that we have to do. You will subpoena, medical records. You might subpoena the school. You may do phone records, business records, all kinds of records. A lot of subpoenas that go out in order to, again, make your case that much stronger, your client's case that much stronger. And a lot of these are tools of discovery. And so you'll see, a lot of attorneys, or some attorneys, will talk about discovery. That's something that we talk a lot about. If you look at some of our other videos, we do discuss the discovery process, which can be an intense process in divorce and child custody cases, even in criminal cases, right? So the discovery is a way for your attorney to really evaluate where you stand in terms of your case and the strength of that case. Okay, so things that go out, things like interrogatories, requests for production of documents, requests for admissions, things like depositions, those are all part of the discovery processes. And a lot of times, good discovery can win a case before trial, right? So, discovery practice is really, really important. So, you do want to have an attorney that is familiar with that process, because, again, it's just going to put you in position to, prevail. And so, let's talk about cost, right? So, obviously, these experts are not free, and all it does is really balloon the cost of litigation, right? So, and some of the cost is going to vary, right? It's going to vary by the scope of the work. It's going to vary by the experience of that expert or professional, how complex the work is, and the amount of time that's going to be involved in the work. All right. So private investigators, forensic accountants, they usually bill hourly. Okay. And same with, business valuation experts. Sometimes they will give you a flat fee, but again, they're just going to really depend on how much work is going to be involved. All right. So there can be a cost. There will be a cost. Guardian ad litems, as I mentioned before, are like a third attorney. Usually, the court might ask the parties to actually split the cost of a guardian ad litem. However, sometimes, and the judge might hold that, one of the parties is going to be solely responsible for the guardian ad litem, and that just really depends, right, on your case, right? Sometimes it depends on the income of the parties as well. So the expense that is associated with that expert needs to really be juxtaposed against the potential value of the information that they may uncover. Okay, so if it may not make a lot of sense to spend $10,000 on a forensic accountant if you're looking for something small like let's just say it is a CD, certificate of deposit that is worth, 5,000 bucks. Okay. But it might be very much worth it if we're talking about trying to do a business valuation for a business that's $1 million business. Okay. So you don't want to leave millions of dollars on the table. But whereas a CD that might be worth $5,000, it may not be worth the investment. And so you do have to think about, getting a return on your investment. And your attorney is going to be crucial in helping you make that determination. Okay. And so are these experts always necessary? Galls, forensic accountants, skip tracers, custody evaluators? No, they are not always necessary. A matter of fact, I would say in most cases they are not necessary. They will be beneficial in some cases, but they're not necessary, all right, in every case. And so many family law cases resolve without an expert. But in cases that involve hidden assets, businesses, high value estates, or even sometimes child custody disputes or financial misconduct, you may want to think about forensic accountants, private investigators, as well as skip tracers. Okay. And so, what we usually see, and the biggest mistake that folks make when it comes to having these complex cases, is they really wait too long to bring on really an attorney that can do a quick assessment and make a determination about, hey, whether or not an expert is actually needed in this case because evidence can disappear, witnesses can move, and then of course financial records can change, and a lot of sometimes that evidence is very perishable. It can disappear, and something that might have been very very helpful to your case may not be available anymore simply because we waited too long to essentially get involved. Right, so that's one of the reasons why hiring the right law firm is super important. You want to bring on an experienced family law attorney, experienced family law firm that knows when an expert is needed, can find an expert relatively quickly, talk to you about intelligently about the benefits of having that expert, and basically using that expert's skill set to help strengthen your case and provide reports or testimony that's going to put you in position to hopefully prevail. Okay. So good lawyers don't just know the law. Law is very important. They know how to build the right team. All right. And so having a team is going to be important, especially when you talk about some of these more complex cases or hidden assets. All right. All right. So that all being said, if you're involved in a high conflict divorce, child custody dispute, and you think there might be some hidden assets out there, your spouse is a business owner, you have a complex divorce, you guys are fighting intensely over child custody, y'all both want, say you both want primary physical custody, and so it's a zero sum game. You may need one of these experts in your case. We are the law firm for you. All right. If you're located here in the state of Georgia, and you're in need of an attorney, you feel free to give us a call, 404-999-9529 or 478-845-1213. It's been a pleasure speaking with you guys. Remember, this is for educational purposes only. By watching this video, this does not create an attorney-client relationship between you and the law firm of Shakhan and Wilkerson or between you and myself. However, if we can assist you, if you know that you need counsel in the case that you have that is currently going on, or you'd like to start a case, feel free to reach out to us. You can also visit us by going to the link in our bio, and we'd be more than happy to assist you with your case. All right, guys, if this video has been helpful, please like it. If you know someone that's going through a divorce or a custody fight and they may need some of these experts in their case, feel free to forward this along to them. If you feel like, again, this information is helpful to you, we talk about everything criminal as well as family and divorce and men's rights, go ahead and hit follow and make sure that you stay tapped in with us. Okay, guys? All right. We will see you on the next video.